Good day, friends. I hope you're doing well. It's Frankie Rose. Welcome to my channel. I have been going over this case the last day or so, and it's one I thought maybe we should go through together. So I guess what my question is, what happened to these three little girls that are now referred to as the Fort Worth Trio? So this nightmare starts in December of 1974. Three young girls, Mary, Rachel Terlicka, Lisa Renee Wilson, and Julianne Mosley, went missing from a shopping mall on the 23rd of December. It was a Monday, and they were in Fort Worth. And I'm not sure if you know the area, but it's not far from Dallas. It was almost around noon, and Renee, who was 14 years old, did what she usually did. She jumped into the vehicle with her mother and was dropped off at her grandmother's house. And this morning she was very, very excited. She had received a ring that morning from her boyfriend, 15-year-old Terry, who lived across the street from her. Renee was very excited, and she waited in the front of the house for Rachel, her friend, to get there. The two girls made plans to go to a shopping mall that was nearby called Seminary South. The girls have known each other for a long time. Their parents used to go camping together any opportunity they had. So on December 23rd, they needed to go shopping. And Rachel had to pick up some clothes from the Army and Navy store that had been put aside for 2 pairs of jeans. As for Renee Wilson, she had a Christmas party to go to with her boyfriend Terry that night, so she wanted to be home by about 4 p.m. Mary Rachel Arnold, who went by her middle name, Rachel, pulled up not long after, driving a gold maroon Oldsmobile, a 1972 Cutlass four-door. I don't know if you've seen them. We always called them boats. It is a very large car with a very large trunk in the back. Rachel was 17 years old and had been married for about 6 months to Tommy Terlicka. He was 21 at the time and had actually been divorced and had a 2-year-old son. Life was different back then, and after getting divorced, Tommy got engaged to Rachel's older sister, Deborah. Deborah is 2 years older than Rachel, and sometime later the couple separated, and Tommy got to know Rachel a little bit more, and they got married. Meanwhile, Deborah fell in love with another guy, and then it broke up. So Rachel invited her sister to come stay with her. Rachel was a student at Southwest High School in Fort Worth, and at the same time, she was looking for a job in a store. It's this possible search that she was on earlier that they're wondering if somebody may have noticed her. So before leaving to join Renee and go to the mall, Rachel asked her sister to come with her. Her sister Deborah wanted to stay in bed, though. How Rachel was dressed that Monday is not known. We only have the description, basically brown hair, green eyes, a chipped upper front tooth, and a small scar on her chin. She would have been wearing her wedding ring, is 5'6" and 108 pounds. And beside her was Lisa Renee, who also went by her middle name, Renee. She had red, wavy hair, light skin, and big brown eyes. She was 5'2" and weighed 50 kilograms or 110 pounds. She was 14 and was dressed in blue, purple hip hugger pants, and they fit like kind of at your hips, and had a white or possibly a pale yellow t-shirt on, and the words "sweet honesty" written across it in big green letters. She also wore red and white Oxford shoes and her new engagement ring. Living in the house across the street from Renee's grandmother is, and it's the grandmother's that she would spend most of her time. So Julie Ann Mosley, she's 9 years old, sandy hair, blue eyes, about 4'3", and weighs 39 kilograms to 85 pounds. She had a small scar under her left eye and another one in the middle of her forehead, and a small scar on the back of her calf. The clothes she was wearing on that morning are a red blouse, dark jean pants, red tennis shoes. So Julianne is also the sister of Renee's fiance, Terry. So knowing about the engagement ring, she was using that as her excuse as she ran across the road to go join the girls. So a little before noon, in front of Renee's grandmother's house in Fort Worth on Gordon Avenue, there's also Janet, 11 years old, and the oldest of Terry's sister. In this neighborhood, in the middle of holiday season, even the slightest event is immediately known to everyone. Before leaving for the mall, Rachel and Renee asked Janet if she wanted to join them, but she didn't want to go. Julianne asked if she could go instead. The two girls were a little surprised at the idea, and watching a 9-year-old girl they didn't really know. So they weren't overly thrilled about it. They tried to dodge by saying, "Sure, as long as your mom says yes," thinking that it was pretty sure thing that the mom would say no. So Julianne crossed the street to call her mom. She goes home and called her at work. After saying no over and over, her mom said she didn't know Rachel and Renee very well. So then she comes up with, "You don't have enough money." And she finally ended up agreeing to it. And Julie said, "I'm going to be home alone if I don't go, with no one to play with." So this is a decision that she will always regret for the rest of her life. The girls also invited Terry, but he promised to spend the afternoon with a friend who was having a hernia operation the next day. So basically on Christmas Eve. So Terry said no. So the three of them, Rachel, Renee, Julianne, headed for the mall. They were in Fort Worth, Texas, and the town is just west of Dallas, and that's where Rachel Trlicka's home was. It was just a little southwest of the mall. And Renee's grandmother's house and Julie's parents' house are not that far either. So leaving from the street and going to Cemetery South Mall, the trio first went to the Army and Navy store to pick up gifts that had been put aside. Surplus stores can be found more in the city than on the outskirts, according to some people. The Army and Navy store where the girls went was located on 601 West Berry. Renee traded in the jeans she was wearing and came out dressed in one of the new ones. The girls next drove to the mall and parked the Oldsmobile on the upper level near a Sears store. In Fort Worth, people remember this open air mall whose architectural design, landscaping, the stores that are lined with wide aisles, shaded areas with fountains, it made this place one of the popular attractions in the Southwest, and it is gorgeous. Back in the late 60s and early 70s, Fort Worth residents and local residents used Seminary South basically as the only mall they had. It was the closest, and it's large. A lake had actually been drained for the construction, and the fact that most of the surrounding parking lots were located like further up as well. So basically, they wiped that out and put cement on it. That Christmas, Sears had the Christmas theme in lights on its facades, but shoppers didn't really stay outside. It was very, very cold, so they were basically rushing into stores and looking for the best prices they could and fast. Rachel knew the mall very well. She lived pretty close to it and was actually looking for a job in one of the stores. Renee and Julianne probably knew it too. Family from Fort Worth came to Seminary South often, and their Christmas toy show at Sears was a massive draw for the kids every year. And then a store called Murphy's. It had a record department that was very popular with the teenagers. In fact, it was the record department that said they remember seeing the three girls just before their disappearance. What happened afterwards is a mystery. Shortly after their disappearance became public, several witnesses reported to Fort Worth police that they had observed the three girls inside the mall, but most others saw nothing but the usual. A few people did notice Renee's Sweet Honesty t-shirt, but weren't able to give any more details. Later, and much later, it will finally be about 20 witnesses who will remember that afternoon and say they've seen the three girls, but honestly, was it really them? When the girls failed to turn up, the police were called, and the case was quickly handed to the Youth Division of Fort Worth Police Department, the Missing Persons Bureau. The girls at this point, the next day, Tommy Trelica, Rachel's husband, received a letter that appeared to have been written by her. It said, "I know I'm going to catch it, but we had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is at Sears upper lot. Love, Rachel." So strangely, the addressed envelope was written in pencil. The letter itself was written in ink, and on a sheet of paper that was wider than the envelope, it was addressed to Thomas A. Trelica instead of Tommy, as Rachel would call him. Rachel was written in the upper left-hand corner of the envelope, and it appeared to be misspelled. It seems like there's an E that was turned in to an L. The postmark did not contain a city, only a blurred zip code that appeared to be 76083. The number 3 appeared to either be backwards, which is unlikely in my mind, or it was a partial 8, which makes more sense when you see it. So that means It's either 038, which comes from, I think it's called Eliasville, or 88, which comes from Weatherford. During the subsequent decades, handwriting experts across the US, including federal, the FBI, have looked at it and they have come up with inconclusive results as well. Despite getting the letter, the families did not believe that it was written by Rachel or that the girls had run away. Rayanne Mosley said, "I know my daughter and I know the other girls. They are not runaways." Judy Wilson, who is Renee's mother, said, "I could have told you they didn't run away the same night. Renee had plans to go to that party. And no 9-year-old is going to run off and take off 2 days before Christmas. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Everybody knows that." Rachel's mother believed the girls had been abducted, saying, "A lot of people may think they have left with someone, but we know the truth, and we'll always think until the day I die that those girls were taken." Not willing to give in, the families continued their search by hand, handing out missing persons flyers throughout the state, contacting newspapers across the country. Eventually, tips again started to come in, witnesses started to come forward. And then in early 1975, one young man claimed to be an acquaintance of Rachel's and claimed that he's seen the 3 girls in the record store. And he said that would be just before they disappeared. Apparently, he and Rachel saw each other and spoke briefly. The man said that another person appeared to be with the girls, but during this same time, some women's clothes had been found in Justin, but eventually it was determined that the girls didn't own them. Frustrated with the police, the families decided to hire a private detective named John Swaim in August of 75. He discovered that a 28-year-old man who had worked for a local store where Rachel had applied was making a string of obscene phone calls in the area. He was using his position to get phone numbers, and then he would make lists and start phoning these people and saying very obscene things. This man also lived in the neighborhood of Rachel's parents, but moved away shortly before she got married, but nothing came of the suspect. April 1975, John Swaim went to the Port Lavka Port Lavka with 100 volunteers to search under local bridges after receiving a tip that the girls had been killed and taken there. But there was absolutely no trace. About a year later, 3 skeletons were found in a field in Brazoria County by an oil drilling crew. John Swaim had said the bones checked against x-rays and dental records showed that they did not come from the girls. It was 1 boy and 2 girls about 15 to 17 years old. In March of 76, a psychic called and talked to one of the families and told them that the girls could be found near an oil well. For some reason, the searchers focused on the small community of Rising Star. Now, that's just outside of Abilene, but nothing was found. In 1979, John Swaim died from a drug overdose. His death was ruled to be a suicide. Now, upon his death, he ordered that all of his files on the case be destroyed. And they were. In the spring of 1981, police investigators were called to a location in Brazoria County after human remains had been found in a swampy area. After a month of investigation, they discovered that the bones did not belong to the three girls. In January 2001, the case was reopened and assigned to homicide detective Tom Bocher, I do believe his name is, who believes the girls left the mall with someone they trusted. We can say that they were at one point seen with an individual, but we believe there was probably more than one involved. In 2018, 2 cars were raised from Benbrook Lake because they were thought to have a possible connection to the case. But sadly, again, no results. Over the years, searchers have continued to comb through Texas brush and have explored hundreds of back roads. These families have walked creek beds, county roads, only to come up with nothing. Decades after the girls' disappearance, there has still been no new reports and no new developments in this case. A store clerk came forward around the time of the girls' disappearance and said that a woman told her that she had seen the girls in the mall that day, and the woman reported that she saw the 3 girls being put into a yellow pickup forcefully. The truck was described to have lights on top of it. The witness, though, could never be located by police, so the story could never be verified. In 1981, years after, the disappearance, a man said he had been in the parking lot the day that this had happened and had seen a man forcing a girl into a van. The man in the van told him it was a family dispute and to stay out of it. April 2001, Bill Hutchins, a former Fort Worth policeman and security guard at the Seminary South Sears outlet, said that he saw the 3 girls with a security guard on the night they disappeared. And that is basically where we're at. Stops, just like that. They disappear. Just poof. It's scary. It's been a long time since these young girls have gone missing. Like every case we work, someone knows something. So if you see something, say something. Back when this happened, we didn't have cell phones or cameras all over the place. We were on our own. Wherever we ventured, however far we ventured, we were alone. And sadly, there are plenty of people who love to take advantage of those situations. So when I was in grade 1, I was walking home from school, and school was only a couple blocks away from my home. One day, a man in a white van drove in front of me a ways and then parked. And as I walked by, there was like a park on the one side and then this road. So as I started to walk by, he asked me if I wanted to take pictures for my parents. And for whatever reason, I didn't get anywhere near this man. And he was, it'd be a nice gift for your parents. Well, I have no idea why, but I bolted. I ran like a bat out of hell. And to this day, I wonder what would have happened to me if I had let that guy get close enough to grab me. So basically, what I'm saying is it only takes a second and a child or children are grabbed and gone. I hope one day we can get some answers for these girls' families, maybe a little bit of peace. I don't see something, say something. I do believe we can pretty much leave it at that. So that is the case of the Fort Worth Trio. So for now, there is where I said I'm going to leave it. And once again, I want to thank you for spending the time with me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And as you're heading out, if you haven't already done it, hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you. Hit the share and the bell, and you'll get notified. I post daily, but randomly. So if you do that, you won't miss any updates. So yeah, come on in and subscribe. I would love to have you. So for now, I'll say cheers, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.